Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Co-op Podcast, episode 174. We have a full cast today. I'm your host, Rich Billy Jr., joined by Mr. Gary Ace Waby. How's it going, Gary?
Doing good now that we finally started the show. We had some technical hiccups, but yeah, we overcame that and now we're ready to go. Thankfully.
Yeah, Google Hangouts need to work on their system. That's all I'll say for now. We're also joined by Mr. Jake James Lugo. How's it going, Mr. Lugo?
What's going on, guys? Hope you guys are ready for a fun show. It's going to be brief for me, so I'm going to be able to speak on probably one or so of the actual topics, but then I got to dip out because I'm over here doing a whole bunch of important work on some projects. So your boy's at work right now, but don't worry. I'm still going to be able to hang out with you guys and talk a little bit about some games.
Absolutely. We're also joined by Mr. Max Muller. How's it going, Max?
It's going pretty good. Excited to be back on the show again for another week.
Absolutely. And special guest, we have Mr. Austin Conway. How's it going, Austin?
It's pretty good, Rich. It always feels like, when I can, when the second I have some free time, I want to hop on and talk to you guys.
Well, yeah, we appreciate it. We know some fans appreciate it as well, so glad to have you back on the show. We do have quite a bit to talk about this week, but of course we have to first talk about what we have been playing. So, Mr. Jake James Lugo, if you would like to go first, please let us know what you've been playing.
Sure. I mean, I've been playing a lot of games for review. Been busy, actually pumping out the reviews constantly and at least, setting stuff up because we're getting ready to go into the fourth quarter of the year. So we're right on the cusp of it. But right now, if you guys have been to the site recently, you've noticed a bunch of new reviews that have been going up. I recently reviewed my first Hatsune Miku game, Hatsune Miku Project Diva X for both PlayStation 4 and PlayStation Vita. It was a new experience for me. It was a little bit different. I ended up scoring it pretty high, about an 80, and I thought that was fair enough because even though Hatsune Miku is definitely not for everybody, it's definitely not not my type of game. It's still a pretty solid and pretty interesting music rhythm based game with its own kind of J-pop style / Vocaloid style to it. And I thought the visuals were nice. Looks great in 1080p on the PlayStation 4. I thought that was pretty good. Great mobile game. Again, you could just play a couple songs and then just keep it moving and such. So it was a pretty decent game. Besides that, the big one I think I reviewed recently, which I'm also doing some other stuff later on, is Attack on Titan. Attack on Titan came out not too long ago from Tecmo Koei. It's also done by Omega Force. It's based on the anime series, based on the first season specifically of the anime, as well as also some original content from the manga that never really kind of made it into the anime series that you'll probably see on Cartoon Network or whatever streaming service that you have. The game is decent. I feel like I scored it around a 70-ish. I felt that was pretty fair. It has a bunch of technical issues that the more I played it, the more annoyed I got at them because I feel like the best part and the best aspects of that game is swinging through the actual city or swinging through the forest that each different mission is kind of based in, and that's pretty cool because that captures almost exactly the essence of the show. Whenever you see those frames of the different characters kind of flying through the air using the omnidirectional gear, that's pretty awesome. I felt that the combat, while it kind of made sense for the show itself, it kind of mimics a little bit the same type of concepts and ideas that you would find in something like Shadow of the Colossus, even though it's nowhere near the majesticness or any sort of that. But it got monotonous over time. The more that I did, the more that I actually took out and subjugated more Titans, the more bored I got and the more annoyed I got with all the little technical issues that popped up here and there. And for the record, the best character in that game, once you unlock him, that's all you're going to play with, is Levi. I believe you pronounce it, or Levi. I think it's Levi. But he's the best character in the game, and once you unlock him, that's all you're going to play with for the rest of the game until you finish it. The late game content is kind of mediocre, but once you finish the campaign, if you're a fan of the series, you're going to enjoy it. The final game that I actually reviewed for the Koalition was Strike Vector EX, and this game is horrible. Straight up, not fun. It was based off of a game that was available on Steam on PC. It was just called Strike Vector, but the console version is just called Strike Vector EX. And the idea of flight combat, aerial combat and dogfights is pretty awesome, especially with a post-apocalyptic quote-unquote setting or a futuristic type of setting that's a little bit more grungy. It's kind of if I had to describe it, it's like Mad Max in the sky, where things are very gritty, things are kind of not for the better for humanity, but it's, people are flying like these crazy airplane-esque or mech-looking devices called vectors. The problem is, though, is that the game, during my time playing the game for review, it crashed on me 5 times on PlayStation 4, which is absolutely insane for me. For anybody for that matter, like how like something like that could get through Q&A and such, but it happens. But besides that, the game just felt very mediocre, a very kind of like lackluster campaign, which apparently the campaign wasn't originally in the first release for it on PC, but it's mostly like a multiplayer-based game. But the multiplayer was fine. It was all right. It wasn't anything too much to cry home about. But everything else about the game I just felt was kind of lackluster. It wasn't all that great. Could have been much better handled, and things could have been kind of fine-tuned or tested a little bit better for the console. But those are the 3 major games that I've been playing for a while now. And then again, we also have other reviews that went up within the last like 2 weeks and stuff like Metroid Prime Federation Force. I've talked about it, as well as a couple other games here and there.
Sounds good, man. Yeah, it's a lot of great games. Well, not all great, because you did say something about one of those other games being horrible. So, but yeah, sounds good. Quite a bit of variety. So how about you, Max? What have you been playing?
I've been playing a lot of Overwatch, actually, again. I'm finally getting back into that, finding the time for that. I've been playing Metal Gear Solid. I'm just about to finish it for the first time, the first game on a PS1 emulator, and then I'm going to be going through the series very slowly. I got a few more hours into Final Fantasy VI, which I'm really enjoying, and that's my first Final Fantasy game. And it's getting me hooked and making me excited to try out the rest of the series. I'm going to get 15 when it drops in fucking November or whenever it's dropping. And then I got a bit back into Pokemon Go again. I know that its population is failing, but I'm still having fun with it in my cityscape where I am. But other than that, not too much.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So, how about you, Austin? What have you been playing?
Honestly, Rich, not much, man. I've moved back to LA. I'm looking at maybe buying one of these impending Slim consoles whenever we get both announced. I'll make my decision there. Nah, man, I've really tried to switch sides and work on kind of like the creation side of things. I'm sound designing, animated short, trying to work with some VR guys in the hopes of getting something off the ground. So I haven't played, but I'm hopefully going to try to create something very soon.
So it sounds like we might be playing one of your games on one of these episodes. We'll be talking about playing one of your games and stuff.
It's possible. It's definitely possible. One of the classes I'm taking is it's a survey of the interactive industry / medium, and Richard Lamarchand, who was the lead designer of Uncharted 1 through 3, is the program director at USC. So I try to pick his brain whenever I can. Yeah, we'll see. Definitely see. Beyond that, though, I want to get maybe a PS4 to check out The Last Guardian, because I've heard that's finally coming out in October. We'll see.
Well, that sounds good, but that can always change. We'll see.
True. Very true.
Yeah, sounds awesome. So, how about you, Gary? What have you been playing?
It's been a very busy week for me, so I've only managed to play, Overwatch, because it's a very easy game for me to play. I can hop on, play a couple matches when I have 15 to 20 minutes or so, and then hop out. I also played some Persona 4 Golden on the VR as well, here and there. Getting back on my portable gaming vibe, because I can carry that with me when I'm traveling or when I'm out and about and stuff like that. So it makes it more convenient. Besides that, I haven't played anything. I just got Deus Ex Mankind Divided, which I'm excited to play through, but I've just been waiting for when I have a few hours to get into it, basically, because I don't want to just start it and then have to get off after 30 minutes or so, so I want to have a lengthy amount of time to where I can really get into the game. But yeah, that's it.
Sounds good. We may be joined by Mr. Singletary, but let me go ahead and say what I've been playing real quick. Obviously, still playing XCOM. I put the difficulty up, so I've really just been getting into that, seeing how that is going. Getting ready for XCOM 2 on consoles, so I've been playing a lot of that. I've also been playing Livelock, which is a game that actually Mr. Singletary also wrote a preview for back in the day. Game is pretty fantastic. It's pretty great so far. So stay tuned for my review of that game this upcoming week. And I did attempt to play Deus Ex Mankind Divided, but unfortunately, that didn't work. We recorded a show last night for Patreon subscribers. If you're a Patreon subscriber, you'll definitely be listening to that soon. But after that, I decided to install Deus Ex. Update took about, maybe I want to say 30, 45 minutes to install, and then after that, I started the game, but then I fell asleep right at the beginning when you're supposed to make the choice as whether or not you wanted to take a non-lethal or lethal approach. So I haven't had a chance to get into that yet. I will hope to get some time in with that after we finish recording this show. But we'll see what happens. I believe there was a sound issue. Well, Mr. Singletary will probably be joining us later. There's a bit of a sound issue. As we already said, we've been having issues with Google Hangouts. But that's all that we've been playing. Wait, is he back on now? Mr. Singletary, you there?
Yes, sir. It's actually working now.
He got it. See, perfect timing. All right, Mr. Singletary, let us know what you've been playing.
I've been playing Divinity Original Sin with Koalition alum David Jagno. I've been playing a lot of. I actually have a list because somebody just asked me the same thing in this Facebook chat. So I've been playing a lot of Pillars of Eternity, Endless Legend, Civilization 5. I already said Divinity, and Company of Heroes. Been playing that a good bit. I'm about to start getting back into the Telltale games because I never played the Game of Thrones one or the Tales from the Borderlands, so I'm going to go ahead and knock those out sometime soon. I finished Oxenfree recently as well, and it was wonderful. And yeah, that's what I've been playing.
Yeah, sounds awesome. Yeah, most of those great games. Oxenfree, fantastic, so that's great. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the topics. Obviously, we're going to address this topic first. I know Mr. Lugo has to leave to take care of some business matters. So the very first topic we want to address, we're going to talk about what happened with this PlayStation 4 Slim last week. Apparently there were a lot of videos. Well, there was one video that came out that showed an unboxing. And, prior to and during that process, a lot of people started reporting on the Slim. Of course, Sony did not announce the Slim, so they decided to send out copyright strikes to a lot of people. And Mr. Lugo actually knows some people, so tell us what the process was with all this other stuff that you've experienced.
So here's the thing. A couple things we had to make note of and whatnot. So the PS4 Slim itself, first it was images that leaked out on Twitter. Well, it was leaked out, I believe it was the NeoGAF post, but they were sent to a few individuals on Twitter right before that went live. Particularly, some of the first group of people were Colin Moriarty and Greg Miller on Twitter. They actually, the person that was actually leaking all this stuff out, that was posting up all the images and actually made the video on YouTube, sent this to them first, and they were going back and forth, trying to see if it was legit. And the first reason, or the first kind of inclination of that when they got the images was when they had asked them to put it on top of the original PlayStation 4. And as soon as they did that, he did that immediately and sent them the image, so that way they had that comparison. So I was like, well, that looks like it's legit and such. So eventually, we all know that blew up, that kind of got around and stuff. That happened right when we were finishing up the co-op, which was kind of funny, and we did the react to it. So afterwards, that video popped up where it was booting up the system online. It was on YouTube. It was on a whole bunch of places. And then basically, PlayStation ninjas kind of got to the person. The video got taken down pretty quickly afterwards. But one of the kind of more interesting and more weirder and not really type of great stuff that was happening was that other channels and people on YouTube that saw the news and wanted to talk about it and kind of like spread awareness about it took some of the images from the NeoGAF post and started making videos based off of that, dissecting, seeing if it was real or whatever. And Sony started going around and putting copyright strikes on the channels. Now, a copyright strike, when you get it, restricts your channel significantly, especially if you have a large audience. I think it's after one strike, you can only make videos up to about 15 minutes. You can't make it more than that. And I think you can also live stream at that point, which is kind of detrimental for some channels, again, especially if you have a big audience and stuff. Now, a lot of people seem to be getting bent out of shape of whether, not only if it was, morally right for Sony to do so, but also if they were able or kind of, allowed to do something like that. The short answer to that is yes, because it is images and stuff that has to deal with their intellectual property, or at least has to deal with the stuff that they own or whatnot. But also, a lot of people are kind of getting hung up and saying that Sony doing this, makes them look bad, which it kind of does. Again, they're trying to control the messaging and stuff like that. I don't think it really kind of, does a lot of harm per se for people just talking about the leaked images. I can understand that argument and such. But obviously, this was obviously something that they were probably going to talk about at the September 7th event that's coming up right now. I think it probably would have been a little bit worse if it was something like the Neo that actually got leaked out. That would have been a whole kind of weird turn of events, or weird or interesting conversation and such. But I know a couple friends of mine that actually had gotten copyright strikes. One of my friends, Jared, he has a channel called The Gamers Joint that he has like over a couple 100,000 subscribers. And he got hit with a copyright strike with it. And it actually happened to him after he posted up the video, just randomly. I think he showed like maybe one or two of the images of the leak itself that was on the NeoGAF format. They immediately just struck his channel. And he's probably going to get it worked out and such to get the strike removed. That takes time here and there. If you're not partnered up with another MCM, multi-channel network, sometimes that could take up to about 3 months now, or I think it's either 3 or 6 months under YouTube's new kind of set of guidelines involving copyright strikes and such like that. But, what kind of sucks is for the channels that aren't in that position, that they were just talking about the news. Because when it gets right down to it, the information's out there, and it kind of sucks that a bunch of people are being punished for something that was just kind of put out there and it wasn't their fault that it got out there. The way it leaked out means that somebody over there, or at least the person that was putting out these images, had strong connections over there to where they were manufacturing the systems, because we got the system itself, all those views and such, but we also got a box, from wherever the source was, wherever they were filming it at. And I'm pretty sure there's some legality that's going to go down at some point where somebody's going to get sued, or somebody's going to be in some deep trouble with the way that this kind of got out. But once September 7th comes around, like, this is going to be mute and such. But that's just my stance on the matter. But what do you guys think of this?
Yeah, whoever wants to go next, feel free to go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with JJ in the sense that, it's unfortunate that this stuff leaked out before Sony intended to put the information out there and stuff like that. But once it's out there, I think content creators have every right to discuss it, because it's something that's current and going on at the moment. So they have every right to talk about it at that point. Fair enough, if they want the pictures removed and stuff like that, I can understand that. But don't put a strike on, somebody's channel, or try and take down their videos just because, they're discussing something that happened. And actually, I've been seeing, pictures, and there's been various information where they've actually been selling the Slim at a second-hand retailer over here, because this whole leak came from the UK, and we have a second-hand retailer called CEX, and they've apparently actually been selling PlayStation 4 Slims and stuff. So I'm pretty sure it's only a matter of time before Sony gets to them. But yeah, this whole thing is pretty unfortunate for all the people involved, and I wish it could have been handled better, but hey, it's the nature of the business.
Yeah, so Mr. Austin Conway, seeing how you said that you may consider picking up a PlayStation 4 Slim, what do you think of this particular news?
I actually just read by one of the guys on Twitter who owned a system that apparently the PlayStation 4 Slim will have better Wi-Fi, which would be nice. Because the PS4 Wi-Fi can be spotty at times. I don't know. It's a situation where, as long as it justifies it its own existence from a storage capacity standpoint, and from a price point, sure. You know, the PS4 gets pretty loud. Were you asking my stance on whether or not I think they should be striked?
Yeah, about the YouTubers.
I got lost in just selling the PS4 Slim to myself. I'm sorry. Just thinking about it right now.
Understandable.
No, it's a situation where, you know, Gary and JJ really speak the truth. It's a matter of the public domain is public domain, but something owned can enter the public domain and stay unowned. So it's a catch-22. It's out there. We can talk about it. We just can't show it. And in that situation, it's kind of like it's a little more than a rumor at that point. If you can only speak and not show. I think it's unfortunate, but at the same time, I still do think it's within Sony's purview to drop the hammer. I just don't think. I think it should be a rubber hammer and not like a metal one. It's just, you know, lax your actions and make them appropriate. Don't go full on, you know, ban hammer on people who are just relaying something that they didn't even leak in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Any thoughts, Mr. Singletary?
Yeah, I got a couple just to kind of frame it for those that may not understand why it's a big deal for Sony to drop the hammer on them. Either way, like, you know, a big deal that they do it or not. Just think of other industries. You'll have leaks from TV shows, TV series, and everything. Like, for example, this TV show in ATL, the first 4 episodes are leaked, right? And just because it is leaked and it is now out there doesn't mean that we just instantly have free reign to start showing clips from those episodes, you know, or post them on our YouTube or share them across just because they're out there. And that is still intellectual property, and that is essentially pirating at this point. Now, and I know it'll be, you know, kind of hard to look at the images of the Slim as that, but it's still in the same realm. So talking about it is not an issue. And just people just need to understand that, you know, do your YouTube video and talk about it. Just don't put the images in there. Like, this is that simple. You can link to something else, someone else that was ballsy enough to throw the images in there, like another website or something, or where the leak came from. Link it to it in the description or something, and then just discuss it. Discuss it like we're discussing it now. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It's a thin line. And I guess the nature of leaks across gaming, it's not been consistent. You know, some stuff gets leaked, people talk about it, show images, and don't get strikes a lot of the time. And, you know, like, for instance, a lot of the stuff that came from, I think, Kotaku about Assassin's Creed, I don't know if actually, I'm not sure there were images for that, but I know there were some games that kind of leak out and people talk about them and they don't have any kind of repercussions, but maybe they just need to be more considerate and careful going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have some stuff to say, but Max, how about you give us your thoughts first?
I agree with a lot of the things said on that. Sony has every right to take down any videos, or I shouldn't say take down, but they have control over their own properties. But I think that what they could have done is just send messages to these YouTubers and not just completely take them down, or at least send out a public message saying, if you don't take these videos down, like, we are going to, or at least change them up. Because it's also interesting because Nintendo isn't doing anything about all these NX rumors that have been going around lately, and they're the kind of ones who are even trying to take down Let's Plays of their games and copyright them. But when it comes to the rumors of their console, they're not really doing anything about it, and they've been super tight-lipped on that thing. And this is only a slim version of the PS4. This isn't even a new console or anything like that.
The caveat for that, though, is that there are no images attached to that, to those
Nobody's
rumors of the NX.
And Nintendo would definitely do that if that was the case, because they're notorious for being so iron grip with their messaging, as well as also the perception of their products.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a fair point.
Charles is right, though. Nobody's posting, like, YouTube teardowns of this NX yet. It's words are words, but, you know, when you throw up a picture, that's thousands of them.
Yeah, because it's not, and it's not that Sony is striking these people for discussing their console. It's just the images specifically of it and the video of it and stuff like that is the problem.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I feel like pretty much everything else has been said. That's most of my thoughts on the case, though.
All right, so I'll say this. I do agree with a lot of the things that have been said. I do think once you have access to a product, you're able to, obviously you have a little bit of I guess some rules that you have to follow. But I kind of do I do have an issue with the way that they went about with the copyright strikes. I know that we actually were victims of this in regards to last year with Metal Gear 5, where I believe Tony purchased a copy of the game early, posted up I believe it was a video of, I guess, the tutorial or some of the first mission, and we got a copyright strike. He released this video now the day before it came out. And the thing I don't think people understand is when you get a copyright strike, the process is not, this is a process that takes a long period of time. It does impact a lot of other things with your channel as well. So I mean, I could understand that they had to do something for those that had access to the images and they had all this other stuff. But my issue was that Sony should have went directly to the source. Clearly, the system is out there, so you have to trace that and track that to figure out who was the person that leaked this information. How did they get a hold to the system? Because to me, I would think somebody on the inside had to have access to this information to know, okay, this person has a PlayStation 4 Slim, and that all that information was out there. So my thing, and then of course I believe that somebody mentioned earlier on this show that there is still a store that's selling this stuff. So if I'm somebody and I'm a content creator and I got a copyright strike, but yet the other store is out there still selling this stuff and Sony still hasn't, quote unquote, figured out who these other people are, I would have a huge problem with that, because I would be like, no, you made me suffer from making content on my page. You need to go after the people who started this whole thing. So I think they definitely need to get down to the bottom of that. And again, understand that this will be announced on September 7th, but I mean, that's still like about 2 weeks away from now. I don't understand why they just don't announce it, get it over with, but I guess they want to do it on their own time. They want to make it special. I know that when the Xbox One S leaked, and this was prior to the conference, I know Microsoft didn't do anything, but they also had less time than, I guess, with the whole timetable thing, because Sony probably already decided they're going to announce this on September 7th. So maybe it's not really fair to compare that, but yeah, I think that Sony with the copyright bans, that that's an unfortunate situation. I'm very glad that we didn't get the copyright strike, obviously, but I'm not a fan of what they did with that whole process. I think it could have been handled a hell of a lot better than it was handled.
A quick point a couple of quick points I want to interject about that. Number one, I think also it's a product of Sony being a little bit blindsided, because, when leaks happen, they always happen unexpectedly, and a lot of it, could do a lot of damage, or it could actually help on the inverse of that for the perception of like a particular product or a particular game, whatever it might be and stuff. Like in the case Charles mentioned earlier about Assassin's Creed Unity a while back when it was originally known as Assassin's Creed Comic. That happened because an individual that was close to the product, close to the game and the project, went to Kotaku and just gave them all the documents, like the concept art and everything else. And when they reported on it, Ubisoft, went into, obviously, damage control mode, like saying, like, hey, this is all stuff that we don't comment or whatever. And Kotaku was like, actually, no, you're lying. Here's all the stuff. Like, they just showed it to everybody. And obviously, when something like that happens, that creates all sorts of, worlds of issues, for that particular company or that particular group or the people that were close to that project. In Sony's case, I think it's kind of like in a similar vein where someone that just happened to be working on the system or just happened to have the system or access to it or was close to it just did all that stuff. And obviously, you're not, when you're working on something like that, you sign a bunch of documents where you're not allowed to do that, and it makes it it's a very big deal. It's a lot of big problems, legal issues that come afterwards when something like this happens and such. What I'm more interested about is what Gary mentioned before, where some of the stores, the secondhand stores, are selling the console now. And I'm surprised that's still a thing, because I would think Sony would just go over and shut that down real quick, or go through whatever steps that they need to do. It kind of lines up a little bit with some stuff that I heard a while back from, because full disclosure, my brother works over at iHeartRadio, and he interacts sometimes with other news reporters from other outlets and stuff, including MSNBC. And one of the reporters there that was telling him about there was a piece of hardware that was going to be going on sale after the September 7th event. And, it was a little bit unsubstantiated, and it wasn't really supported by some stuff, but he had sources leading, to this type of information. Originally, he thought, and the way that he was describing it to me, he thought it was the Neo at one point. But I could totally see, like, if that's the case and secondhand stores have the Slim already, I could totally see, like, at the end of that event being like, oh, guess what? The PlayStation 4 Slim is available now in stores. You could go buy it right now. Or at least go buy it within a certain time frame, like the day after, or something like that of sort. But my point is that, the reason why Sony probably acted, or at least did all this stuff with YouTubers sending out copyright strikes without going through any of the stuff that we mentioned before, is because I feel like, again, they were blindsided, and like this was for them, for whatever reason, whatever info that they have that we don't have, that was the best course of action for them before the September 7th event that's happening soon.
I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but Assassin's Creed as a franchise has always been one that I feel is probably intentionally leaked, because every Assassin's Creed subsequent to has shown up. I think there was like Black Flag was shown to somebody on a plane. Employees aren't that stupid. But I think in the case of like Sony, it was accidental. But I think there are like intentional leaks.
I'd like to make a quick comment based off of what you both just said. Yeah, I think you can make the point that it is, you could say that it was a possible, wasn't intentional. But as we mentioned on the last show when we did the react, I would not be surprised if some of this was intentional, because, again, you have to remember the Xbox One S. That has been getting, all I've been hearing about is news stories about, oh, yeah, it's selling out. It's been sold out a couple places here. And so, obviously, all the attention was on that. And, Microsoft just released the Xbox One S 1 terabyte and 500 gigabyte this past week. This news dropped in between the release of the 2 terabyte Xbox One S and then all these other Xbox One S's. So I don't know if it was all the way, just by circumstance that this news came out early. But obviously, the system is not out right now. So, I mean, you can make a case for either point. I just think I think some of this had to be intentional to some degree. Because, again, as you guys already alluded to, if they are selling this console right now and Sony hasn't stopped that process, I think that's real fishy right there. But that's my thoughts. Does anybody else have anything they want to say on this topic?
Quick footnote, the reason why we don't have any strikes on the Koalition is because both of our videos about it have no pictures linked to it. Or video.
Originally we did. Originally they did, and I went in and I changed the thumbnails because that was one of the reasons why so many people were getting copyright striked in the first place, because of an image in the thumbnail or even during the video.
Yeah.
Coalition is always good at following the rules. I know this, like, in hindsight, there's situations where, like, you won't even get pictures of the actual, like, guests on the podcast. It'll just be a stand-in blue dude. So you guys have always been on top of it.
Oh yeah, we're good with the pictures, man.
We got our lawyers sitting in the cut just waiting.
Shouts to Tony, because when this whole thing happened, he actually changed the thumbnail image of one of his videos to a picture of the PlayStation 1 Slim. That was genius.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I actually just saw that one. That was awesome.
So, any final thoughts on this topic before we move on?
I said all.
You guys are good. All right, well,
you guys said everything.
I believe that you're about to dip out, Mr. Lugo. Do you have any final thoughts for the listeners?
No, just thanks for listening, guys. I know, again, really brief appearance for me, but got to go get work done, got to go make some stuff happen and such. But enjoy the show. Enjoy the rest of the talk, because I know that these guys got a bunch of like really important and interesting topics to discuss with what's been going on with gaming lately. So I'll probably see you guys on the next episode. So have fun, everybody.
Awesome. Talk to you later. All right, so we're going to go to the next topic. This is Gary's favorite topic, so we have to address it immediately. PlayStation Now is officially coming to PC. I mean, we spoke about this as a rumor because at the time there was still information that we was waiting on, and sure enough, that information was revealed earlier this week. So feel free to give us some more details on this, Gary, because I know that you've been looking forward to playing Uncharted on PC. So yeah, feel free to let us know more about this.
Well, not exactly, but yeah, yeah, it's confirmed now pretty much. You know what we were saying a couple weeks back or last week. I can't remember which episode it was, but PlayStation Now is gonna eventually be coming to the PC. And you know what this means is that you'll be able to play some of the older PlayStation titles now. I haven't fully read up on all the information yet, so I'm hoping one of you guys might know. But I'm curious about the subscription fee and whether that's going to be a thing on the PC version, and you know if so, is it going to be the same as it is on the console or not? Because like I know PC gamers don't like paying for services like that, and they might take issue with this because you know Xbox, they actually removed the Xbox Live subscription fee from the PC because they knew that would be an issue, you know, with PC gamers. So that's what I'm really curious about personally. But it is good that you know PC gamers will now get, you know, they'll get a taster of PlayStation titles, you know, whether from the PS1 era, PS2, and even PS3. And I'm hoping eventually we might even get some PS4 stuff, but you never know. I mean, this whole move shows that Sony is interested in making moves on the PC, so it looks great for the future.
I think we'll get like continued release of PS Now titles. I don't see them putting out, especially with Neo, which is supposed to be kind of like a device maintained and created to entertain spec enthusiasts. I don't see them going full PC with PS4 titles personally. But I think it's definitely solid. You know, it's good for those who want to use it on PC.
Sure. What do you think, Charles? Because I know you're a PC gamer as well.
Trash, complete trash. No, y'all know I've shared my thoughts on PlayStation Now quite often, quite often. But I hope that it's a move to create some kind of partnership with someone on PC to actually get some games over there, similar to what Microsoft is doing. I've been wanting Sony to do this for a long time, ever since Sony Online Entertainment came into existence. I was hoping that there would be a much more in-depth, or rather deeper, relationship with PC gamers. So right now, this is kind of just them giving them the crumbs with the PS Now thing, but it is a start. That's a pretty large library to put on PC. I don't know I don't know how well that's gonna pick up though, because of all the emulators and everything out there in the world. But we'll see. It's a good first step.
Oh, so how about you, Max? Any thoughts on this?
Oh yeah, I'm excited for it to come if there is no subscription service for it or pay for it, because I already pay for Xbox Live, I pay for Netflix, and I don't have the most income in the world. And if it's free, that's great for me, and I'll be sure to try out some of these PS3 games. And I also want to know if we'll be able to use our profiles and stuff and gain trophies and everything. Like with Xbox, when they had Games for Windows Live, that abysmal service, we were still able to log in and get achievements and everything like that. So I hope that PS Now would have something like that. I don't know how it works now. I don't know if they're going to change it for PC and make a PC-centric UI or anything like that. But if they do have a monthly subscription fee, then I'm probably just going to kind of be like, whatever. But it's good for anyone who has the money and the time for that.
Yeah, that's a good question to ask. Like that was one of, my questions. Like, are they gonna integrate trophies and all that stuff on the PC
Yeah.
as well? Like, I mean, I'm guessing this is gonna be like its own sort of client. So maybe they can program, the trophy system and the party chat and stuff within that, system. So that's what I'm hoping.
So a quick question for you guys. Also, we do know along with that you're going to be able to use the PlayStation 4 wireless controller to also play PC games. Are any of you contemplating that decision, or will you just stay committed to the Xbox controller or keyboard and mouse?
Well, I've already actually been using the DualShock 4 on PC. There are ways to make it work, and there are certain games that support it natively. And if the game doesn't support it natively, you can download the software that will make it work for you. So yeah, I've already pretty much been using the DualShock 4 on PC for a while. I use it especially in Street Fighter 5. So, yeah.
Wait, hey, Street Fighter works perfectly great on PC.
Yeah, well, I haven't been on lately, but yeah, it worked fine.
Well, hey, man, depending on how long it's been since you played, if you log on, it'll probably download the other half of the damn game. So.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure it will.
Hey, Mortal Kombat's coming though, so that'll be cool to PC.
Yeah, that's gonna be pretty awesome. And as far as the controller thing, I'll probably go that route. I did not know that they were gonna make some official moves with allowing that to be used with the PC. Like Gary said, I was aware of the different things you could do to make it work, but I was wary of doing that because I didn't feel like trying to map out the entirety of it and deal with the touchscreen part and all that stuff. But it makes more sense for me to go for that controller because I'm going to get a PlayStation 4 again, so I'll be able to use it on both. Even though I do like the Xbox controller a lot for using with PC. I don't know. If I catch a good deal, I'll probably just end up with both. But I'll give the PS4 one a shot, or the DualShock 4.
Yeah, as for the mapping stuff, there's this software you can get, and it basically just makes your PS4 be recognized as like the same as the Xbox controller. So you don't really need to do much mapping or anything.
Okay.
In that regard.
Noted.
But this because they're doing this now, I'm hoping that more and more games will just be native with it. Because
exactly.
Fallout 4 was actually native. Like I didn't need to install anything to make it work. I just plugged in and played.
Man,
and there are games like that, but it's just not every game is native, unfortunately. So I'm hoping that now that they're allowing it to be on there, officially, that we'll see more and more games become native.
I can't believe you're using a controller for Fallout, man. What is wrong with you?
I mean, I don't for every first-person shooter, but Fallout is like, because it's an RPG, there's like certain things you need to do, and like, it's better to have a controller for it. So
yeah. The tough part for me is that whatever I do choose to use, I won't use as much as mouse and keyboard because I play a lot of 4X strategy, RTS, stuff like that. So I definitely have to use mouse and keyboard. There's no choice whatsoever on that.
Yeah, for Overwatch, I'm strictly keyboard and mouse on that. Like in any other competitive shooter like that, I'm strictly keyboard and mouse. But Fallout 4 is a bit more extensive than that, so yeah.
Yeah, so do you have any thoughts, Mr. Austin?
I mean, I use a controller for Fallout 4. I hope I'm not lost and foolish along the way. That said, though, I mean, it's of the three consoles. Well, let me rephrase. Of the two equally powered consoles, Sony will always kind of have with its computer entertainment division. It'll always have more of like a console culture. Whereas Xbox is kind of like pitching this idea of Windows everywhere, Xbox everywhere. We publish the games for all systems, and I know they've come under flack for no longer having, quote, true exclusives. That said, though, like I feel like the bulk of Sony's attention will always be on its consoles, and I feel like to some extent, if you still want its most contemporary and best games that they have to offer, you're going to find them on the PlayStation consoles. But at the same time, you know, it's always good when you can get more people hooked, more people to play it. So I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, and I'm curious to see if the service will cost. I tried it on PS4. It didn't do anything for me. I still own those games. I'd rather play them off the disc. But that's because I don't think streaming is there yet. So we'll see.
Yeah, very good points. Very fair enough. I was going to ask the question if, like you just brought up, would this, now that you know that this is something that is going to be on PC, does this mean that any of you are inclined to actually join the service if you're not already on PlayStation Now? So, how about you answer that question first, Gary?
No, I won't be joining the service. To be real with you, like, but it's good that now other people can play a lot of the PlayStation stuff that they might have missed out on. But me personally, I'm not in a rush to join up with that service. You know, now that it's coming to PC.
Fair enough. I mean, I pretty much think that, hey, I don't have an issue with the announcement of PlayStation Now. You know, obviously, some people, it's just a matter of whether you like it or not. I haven't used PlayStation Now. I don't intend to use PlayStation Now. There are still some games on PS3 I would love to play, but I just I don't have an interest in paying that service to play that game. It's just there's no going back. I would just get a PlayStation 3 again if need be and play those games on the system. But I think it's a good option for those that obviously have a subscription already. That's great. As for the whole thing of will the PlayStation 4 games come to it, I mean, I don't know. I know if that was to happen, you may get a few fanboys that will say something to the effect of, you know, they'll criticize this move the same way they criticize Microsoft's strategy with the Xbox One and Windows. But I mean, it's just a different dynamic. But we'll have to see how that all goes down. But me personally, I probably more than likely will not be trying out the service. You know, as long as the current price that they have right now, and you know, I don't really think it's worth that time for me personally. But if it's good for you, anyone out there, please, yeah, definitely take advantage of it. And as for playing the PlayStation 4 on PC using that controller, I don't yet have a gaming PC. I'm in the process of getting one, so I more than likely may stick with the Xbox controller. I mean, obviously, I have to see whether or not how it is to use the PlayStation 4 controller on a PC. I don't really have that experience yet, but I do feel a little bit more comfortable with the Xbox One controller, so I more than likely would just stay with the Xbox. But, you know, we'll have to see when that time comes. But, again, great to give people options as far as that stuff is concerned. But PlayStation Now, nah, I definitely won't be using that service. So, any final thoughts before we move on to the next topic?
No, from me.
All right. So the next topic. Now, this is a story that I only heard about this yesterday, so I don't really know all of the details. I'm assuming you maybe know more about these details, Gary, since you made this a point for us to discuss. But No Man's Sky, you know, the last couple of weeks we've had discussions about No Man's Sky, and some stuff was maybe it wasn't all altogether positive, but I guess that stemmed from still being confused about what the game is, or confused about some of the messaging with the game. But apparently, according to some things that have been going on with the game, people are now getting refunds on both PSN and Steam. So
And Amazon.
and Amazon as well. Oh, so okay, you can tell us more about this subject matter, because I've only heard what I saw yesterday when I didn't actually see the article you posted as a reference here. You will have to give us a little bit more insight on this particular topic.
Yeah, I know Charles knows a lot about this too. I saw him talking about it also. But yeah,
Okay.
basically they're issuing refunds to people who have played, No Man's Sky on Steam, PSN, or who purchased it from Amazon. And it doesn't matter how long you've played the game. So you could have played it for 50 hours, for 10 hours, for 3 hours. It doesn't matter how long you played the game. If you want a refund, you can get a refund. And it seems to be, it must be some kind of legal issue, because I know a lot of people have been unhappy with the game, and they're upset that, they didn't see things that they said they were promised in the game. So it might have something to do with that, because, PSN, they basically changed their whole refund policy just to issue these refunds. So, there must be something going on, legally. But Charles, what's your thoughts on this?
All right, to go a little deeper into what's going on, there were already some refund policies in place, not so much with PSN, but with Amazon and Steam. They already had refund policies that allowed you to, I know Steam's, if you play under 3 hours, I believe, play under 3 hours.
I think
under
it's
2 hours.
2 hours, isn't it?
2 hours.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. All right, so play under 2 hours, and within a week, you initiate the return or refund, then it'll be refunded at the full amount. So you're good there. Amazon, I'm not sure exactly what Amazon's is, but I know that all three of them are now offering refunds specifically for No Man's Sky outside of their usual criteria for refunds. There are a lot of details we don't know about this particular situation. I assume that Hello Games is a part of that decision. But I am not a fan of this. It sets a bad precedent, in my opinion, because what makes No Man's Sky any different from any other game? Like, imagine if Destiny would have had a return policy like this in the first week. We know what Destiny is like now, but we can't forget how people reacted to that game when it first came out. Oh, it doesn't have a story. Oh, it's super short. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not what I expected. I expected to fly around the whole planet. Like, it was a bunch of bullshit. It's just... it's the nature of some things that happen when you have all of this marketing money put behind things. People see what they want to see. There are now the other half of this. There are legitimate concerns about this game to have and to discuss. But a lot of the things where people feel cheated, I don't believe in that. Like the multiplayer stuff, they've been saying for quite a while that multiplayer was not a priority in this game. So to create such a big deal about that, it was kind of off-putting to me. Now, to find... Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, now, to be fair, though, there's a difference between failed expectations and downright lies and promises. Sean Murray, like Reddit, has compiled lists of features that he said would be in the game that are just not there. That's where the basis of those who... I haven't played the game, but that's where the basis of those who want their refunds are coming from. They're, like, we expected Destiny to have a story because the first 3 campaigns with the Halos and Halo Reach were solid. But I think it's a different situation.
Really? Let me throw
Didn't
something
that
at you.
happen with Destiny 2, though?
No, it did. There was a huge
like
feature
cutscenes
missing.
And stuff.
Yeah, cutscenes were missing. There was supposed to be an entire system where you were getting text messages from in-game characters in Destiny for quests.
But none of these were ever highlighted as features. There are trailer snippets gone, much like when you look at concept art. There's concept art for Uncharted 4 that took Drake to Indonesia. We didn't go to Indonesia. I wanted to go to Indonesia. It would have been cool.
But you're making the point for me though. All of these games have things that get cut.
Yes, but how many of those games? There's a difference between a concept being built upon versus something being sold to you.
What is the difference in No Man's Sky's situation though?
Here, I can bring up the list.
Well, so I guess he's
Anybody want to say something like while he does that?
Sorry
I was gonna-
about that. I missed that. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to bring up the fact that this is kind of like Firewatch, where there were people who were finishing that game in under 2 hours and refunding it on Steam. I think that's straight up thievery at that point. And if people are playing 50 hours in a game, you are pretty much getting your money's worth. Even if you didn't enjoy the whole time, why are you playing it for that long then? Like if you play a game for 50 hours and try to return it, that's dumb. You're not getting a full refund. It's just straight thievery at that point, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of sit on like both sides of the argument because I can understand why people are disappointed, but I do feel like a lot of this is down to the level of hype that was set for this game. Like it was overblown. Like people went too hard trying to hype up this game and stuff, and that's why when the game came out and there were features missing, it was such a big deal because so many people put so much extras on this game coming out and stuff like. But at the same time, like you said, Charles, there are other games where features are cut and stuff like that. So, I fully understand it from that side too.
Yeah, and just to also put in perspective, there is a thread of things that Destiny promised, just like there's a No Man's Sky thread on Reddit about things that No Man's Sky promised. And these are from not just statements. Apparently, like one of these threads is it's taken from Game Informer, like a year or so before Destiny came out, where they were like, "There's images of this, there's video of this, there's clip and conversations about these things," and they were not in the launch game. Now, those things may have popped up in DLC later, but No Man's Sky is saying that their updates aren't even going to be DLC. And they already set the precedent that there's going to be massive updates and added features from the patch notes in the very first one, which a lot of people discussed as a ridiculously huge day one patch. Which, if you have issues with day one patches, that's a whole other conversation for another day. But this is not a new thing, in my opinion.
The straw that broke the camel's back was when someone data mined No Man's Sky recently, and they found out that every pre-release trailer was scripted. None of that was ever live gameplay. In Destiny's defense, the first time we saw it, it was live gameplay. Now, things were cut, but it wasn't a situation. Like, I think there's a YouTube video that makes the rounds of E3 2014 trailer versus live-action release. And to know that it's all, scripted, it's like the PS3 2005 E3 show where Killzone 2 never looked that good. And if other games are criminal of it, then they should be equally scrutinized. I don't believe in selling people things that you don't have. That's very Bill Gatesian. Pitching something, making money off something you've yet to develop. And it's a situation where I think the internet comes down hard on Sean Murray, but at the same time I think they should. He's probably a nice guy. Hell Games is probably his baby. But he was writing checks that he can't cash. And there's a difference if a coder says something along the lines of, oh, yeah, that'll be in there. Or if we have concept art that teases a ship or a planet that, oh, yeah, that could be in there. But when the CEO, president, and game director of your company comes out, that's straight up Peter Molyneux. You've just pinned Peter Molyneux at this point. And I think, I think people have a right to be angry.
Well, to counter that, also, people at the end of the day, they can wait. This is kind of, I don't want to say this is what they get, but they bought it day one. Like, Hello Games could have lied about everything, and you wouldn't have known unless you bought it day one and played it. So people could have waited a few days to see what people thought about it, and then played the game.
Yeah, and then what if Fable 1 came out around this time? Since you brought up Peter Molyneux.
Fable 1 would be ripped apart. Fable 1 would face the same issue.
Exactly, and I guess I'm torn because I'm like, it's been such a common thing. What changes now? Is it a good change to have this kind of situation, or is it a bad thing? That's the tough thing. That's the line that we're kind of towing.
I think this situation is different simply because this game was put so much in the spotlight. If it hadn't been put that much in the spotlight, like this wouldn't have been happening. I think if they even pitched the game a completely different way and just said, this is a game where you can explore space. Like if they completely ignored the whole center of the universe thing, and just said, yeah, this is just you know, you just explore the universe, you mine materials, blah blah blah, and you know, just said that, I think people would be happy with the game, to be honest with you. But because so much extras were put on it, that's why we have this issue now.
Well, I think that it comes down to it. You look at Fable was released in 2004, 2016's No Man's Sky. Within that duration, what the biggest change is the notion of games as a service as opposed to games as a product. Games are now kind of living and breathing more often than not. There is a service mindset, complex, you know, this whole idea that we've constructed around the idea of when I turn this game on for the first time, it's going to play differently than when I turn it on for the 10th time. More often than not, that's true. You can do it in small bits with DLC for like single player, but if you look at something like No Man's Sky, which is supposed to be thriving, you're going to have a situation where, kind of much like Spore from almost 10 years ago, you have the idea of endless procedural generation. Well, I think the problem with procedural generation is a sandbox is fun to play into until you realize it's just fucking sand. And I think that's, you eventually get to the point that expectations of audience members were out of check, but I think that's because they believed that this would literally be a space simulator. It wasn't going to be. You're going to land on the same 5 or 6 planets with different fungi and a different animal smashed together, and that's the extent, apparently, of the objectives. And I think that's what makes people mad. It'd be like Netflix selling you the entire season from day one, only to realize that you're just getting the season in incremental tidbits. So I don't like the argument of, oh, the game's coming in updates subsequently. You don't buy updates. You buy the core game. You know, you don't. When you're building a house, you don't buy the house that's already built. You buy the lot. You build up upon it. In that situation, it makes sense to expect things later on. But to charge you $60 for that, to charge you $60 and pretty much say, oh, here, wait for this to build itself, I find that to be irresponsible.
All right. With that being said, why wasn't this an issue with Street Fighter?
I'm sure Street Fighter's getting its own flack. I have heard.
Like no. I mean the refund part. Like what I felt like Street Fighter should have had the refund policy in place before No Man's Sky would have. I think just because that thing came out 1/4 of what we were told it was going to be.
Well, the beautiful thing about Street Fighter is, well, I mean, it's a fighting game. I assume people's expectations were in check, but Capcom already has just like been the target for so many people and critiques. The difference in this situation is Sean Murray has really emerged as the auteur. So you hear all these complaints leveled at Capcom. That's because, largely in part, the unhappiness with Street Fighter's roster, I assume, is the biggest issue. Sean Murray emerged kind of as the figurehead of the game. He made himself as important as the game, and that's where the flag's being thrown. And that's why it's so vocal. It's, you know, you can hit a target when you can see it. Otherwise, save your fire. And I think Sean Murray, in that regards, the problem with being like a video game auteur, much like Quantic Dream, what's his name?
I know exactly what you're talking about. I can't remember.
David Cage.
Much like Quantic Dream's David Cage gets flack because he makes himself as important as the game that he's making. And therein lies the problem. I'm sure Capcom's gotten tons of shit. It's just we can't pinpoint a specific... And people aren't going to critique Uno. You know, poor guy makes it sound like he hates his time at Capcom anyway. People aren't going to go after the director, A, because he's been a sympathetic character, and B, Capcom emerges as the critical kind of like figurehead of evil in that situation. Much like Konami has become the target for critique and not Konami's actual president. That's because when you shape the narrative around a person and not a thing, you focus more on the person. And unfortunately for Sean Murray, that whole like humility persona that he had made him quite the target.
And also, to be fair, this happened last year as well with Batman Arkham Knight. Like they were on Steam because that was so broken. They
couldn't even play that shit though. See, like I definitely respect if your game is fucking unplayable, then it shouldn't even be a question that the refund policies, kind of cater to that, because you have the shorter window of the refund policy, just taking Steam into account when you play a couple hours. So you couldn't even play a couple hours. But imagine if you keep that past a week because they tell you, hey, we're going to patch this. And then they don't, like with Arkham Knight, then obviously your refund policy should be changed to fit that particular situation. But this isn't a situation where the game is unplayable. It had those issues at first. But they patched those out. Like I didn't have an issue on my PC, possibly because it was NVIDIA, and I think AMD people were having more of an issue. But yeah, the refunds are coming not so much from being unplayable as in this is not what we hoped it was or thought it was going to be because of the interviews that Sean put out, and he's right. Sean, being that humble indie guy out in the front of everything, did put a big spotlight on him. But I guess to a degree, I guess my soapbox kind of slides out of the closet, and I just hate the fact that an indie dev is getting targeted like this, as opposed to AAA people that do very similar things on the regular, and it's like a usual thing. Because one thing, Austin, that you said that I wanted to come back to is that you pay for the base game. You know what I'm saying? Like there's so many examples of when the base game is void of content and we have to wait for DLC or patches and stuff to come into play.
Oh, absolutely. And I firmly believe in the notion that people will cut content just to release as DLC later. And it makes me sick. And I think a lot of people need to realize that, and I think you're seeing it with Pokemon Go, people get excited about the potential for something and they don't really acknowledge or appreciate what's actually in their hands, and that breeds disappointment. People need to get their expectations in check, but I do think at the same time, the only reason in the case of No Man's Sky their expectations were so high was because they were told of things that just aren't present. Like, I'm sure there will be more content. I'm sure it will be better. I'm sure Destiny 2, and as someone who, really fucking did not like Destiny, and the reason I didn't like Destiny was because of a lack of a coherent single-player story that I could play myself. Because other players were dependent upon your progression and that
experience. Yeah,
that's not the way you should do it. Especially, Game Informer posted an entire compendium of lore, and some of that shit's really interesting. It's just a shame that.
But you have to go online and read it. I hate that so much.
Oh, absolutely. It's like characters of this, that, whatever, and there's a loot system. But I'm sure with Destiny 2, it could be like the Aliens of video game sequels. Look at what the first one did, do it in a completely different way, and do it better. But at the same time, you have a situation where when your game is procedurally generated, you promise endless possibilities. I think that's why at the end of the day you've got a situation where Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley, those guys are loved because things are handcrafted. I think No Man's Sky would have been better off as a game for half the price with a much more linear approach because people love spectacle. They love the idea of open-endedness, but they love spectacle. You could do a No Man's Sky 2. I hope it gets to it. I hope it kind of delivers on more promises, and I'm sure the subsequent DLC releases will, but I think both parties are at fault. But in this situation, it was kind of the flute player that led the audience to a game that just wasn't what they expected. And I don't know if that's their fault as much as it is the man playing on the flute.
I do definitely think they could have controlled the messaging for the game a lot better. Like if they would have just, pitched the game a different way, I do feel like it could have actually been a success, and people would have been happy with it. But it's just the way certain things were talked about. And has any of you actually heard or seen the ending, the center of the universe thing?
No.
I've seen the area you get to, but I haven't seen what happens if you show up with all 10 of the things that they request for that area that you get to.
Okay, well, I don't want to spoil anything for people, but I know that if that was something I was looking forward to, I would be disappointed myself. So, yeah. But it does
Is
suck
it like,
that,
is it like a situation where your princess is in another galaxy? Is that kind of like
That's
start over again?
Yeah, but that one is a situation that just how you perceive the conversations they had about those things is kind of playing a part in that too, because the center of the universe conversation didn't come until well after the game was announced. And initially they did focus on the fact that like this is exploration. There's not much of a story. There's lore in place, but what you experience and the planets you find, that is basically the story that you're shaping. And then they came out with the center of the universe thing as a goal for you to get to, and then from what you say, it's very underwhelming. And I guess that's kind of a thing where you should have changed what you focused on. But I don't know, man, it's tough. Because like my perception of the game a lot of the time, and I've been following it, since day one. I don't know if it was, I don't know what kind of brought me to the understanding that I had, but I was like, this whole center of the universe thing is irrelevant to me. Because even when I started the game, when you get to choose the path, you can choose to either go straight to the universe, center in the universe, or just explore. I chose to explore because I knew that wasn't the primary objective. Like, I knew that was something that I could deal with later on, and it was more about me going to these different planets and experiencing things. So I don't know if my expectations are just more tempered with everything else that has happened in gaming or not, but I don't know, man.
Another thing that I'm really disappointed about is I'm hearing that you can name stuff, and that's one of the things I really loved about playing the game. But I'm hearing that you name stuff and then it all resets after like 2 weeks.
Clarification. Yes, that is true, but it's only for plants and animals, which I was also very, very pissed off about that, because that is something that I felt was said in the pre-release stuff leading up to the game. You name everything, people will show up to your planet and see these things that you have named. But I'm like, as big as this universe is, you wipe it after 2 weeks. Who the hell is going to find my planet and see things on? Like, they'll see the name of my system and they'll see the name of my planet, right? But when they get down to those animals, it's just going to have that generic name that it had in the first place. That was like, when they said that, and I saw that, I saw it first on Geek.com. I think Tony wrote an article for it. That was the first legitimate disappointment that I had with this game, where I actually felt betrayed. Like everything else, I was like, it kind of depends on how you perceive what they said and what was said specifically and all that. But that actually pissed me off a lot.
Yeah, that is something big that makes me not want to play it anymore, because like I actually enjoyed that part of it, like just exploring, discovering, and naming things, like stamping your name on, the universe or whatever, so somebody can come along and find that. But the fact that it resets, like, that's a big deal, like, to me personally. That's a slap in the face.
I do have a quick comment to make. There has been an update to that particular article, and the person clarified that after they did the update on the game, I guess there was an update patch, everything was fine. So I think that issue is resolved as far as the plan. I mean, I don't know the full extent of Beyond the Planets, but at least with the planets, I don't think that issue is an issue anymore.
Yeah, I think it's with like the animals and the plants and stuff like that.
Yeah, because originally the article said that your planet's names didn't show up either. But when the updated version of that story was the planet and your system names exist, but the names for the plants and the animals does not.
Okay. Okay, cool. Austin, you was about to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, can we at least agree that people who send death threats over this are assholes?
100% yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
No, absolutely. So, yeah, I just want to say real quick about the topic is that, as we've said on the show multiple times, some of us actually know Sean Murray, so it's an unfortunate situation that they had to go through all of this, but it definitely is an issue, as Gary said, with the expectations were raised with the game, and I think that the developers were so excited to finally have this game, because if you know Hello Games, these guys made Joe Danger before. We was one of the few. Well, maybe there were a couple. We were one of the few sites to cover every Joe Danger game from when these guys first started. So obviously we do support Hello Games. I do support Sean Murray, but the situation regarding this particular game, I think maybe they knew that they had raised the expectation bar, so they fed into that and they said, well, this is all the stuff that we're going to do. Then, of course, some of that stuff may end up coming in future updates, but, we have to wait and see. But it is an unfortunate situation because I do want to root for them to be successful. But people also need to keep their expectations in check with a lot of stuff. I mean, there was plenty of games this generation so far where there were high expectations and they did not quite live up to those expectations. I mean, some stuff was a failure. And then there's some stuff that it wasn't really a failure, but it still didn't quite reach the potential that it wasn't really something that was worthy of all the hype. But people have to really keep their expectations in check. I did want to add in very quickly, because you guys brought up the subject of content and the fact that there's other content that might get released. Did you guys hear the news about Final Fantasy in the season pass earlier today? The news in which the director said we may have additional DLC after the season pass, and of course we will charge for that. I just wanted to get some quick thoughts on that particular topic.
And quick, the update on that No Man's Sky thing, yeah, apparently every discovery supposedly works, but the thing that they link back to, I can't find any evidence of that, but go ahead.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. But yeah, as the resident Final Fantasy fanboy,
boo.
My thoughts on that, like, I'm a person who doesn't really care about DLC anyway, because like I'm like, when it comes to DLC, sometimes I can be real ignorant because, like Austin said earlier, if you buy a game, you should have everything in there, and you shouldn't have to be waiting for more content later and stuff like that. And that's how I approach games. So if you would intentionally leave something out so that you can sell it as DLC, or if you plan more DLC content later, I don't care. So like, all of the extra content, I will be buying the season pass for this game just because I do love Final Fantasy. But any content that comes out after the actual game itself, I don't care that much. Like, so, yeah.
Well, hold on a second. Now, let me just say a quick comment. I'll be very, very surprised. I'll be very, very surprised if you stick to this philosophy, because we all know you be buying Final Fantasy multiple times. They'll probably release this version, and then in about a year later, okay, let's release the complete edition with all the season pass, everything for $60. And we know that you buy these games multiple times, Gary, so I'll be very curious to see if you stick to that philosophy.
I mean, if I really do like the game that much, I probably will buy it. Probably still will buy it.
Copy of Final Fantasy 15, the complete edition, as well as Resident Evil 4 for the 18th goddamn time. They're gonna re-release it again.
Yeah. Go ahead, Gary.
I mean, as for selling content outside of the season pass, did they say what time frame? Like,
they didn't give a time frame. They said they have a lot to discuss. It's just that was a point of news because there are some people that said, "Oh, well, I would pay for the additional DLC," and then there was some that was pretty pissed. So it's a pretty split reaction. But there's no other information yet. They just said they'll discuss this at a later time.
Okay, so I will say this, like, if they sell this content outside of the season pass, when it's, within, like, a year of the game's release, like, while they're still offering the season pass content, then that's bad practice, because everything should just be in the season pass. But if it's after the 12-month window, then fair enough if they still want to sell more content. And if it's, like, an expansion or something, then, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I mean, they obviously need to provide more information. I just wanted to get a quick thought on that because when I saw that, I thought, oh, that's interesting. And when Charles made the point about the major developers maybe not getting quite the same type of reaction when they release a game that doesn't have all the content, because Deus Ex, I've already heard that Deus Ex, the story is not finished. It comes to a complete, it just ends. And then they have a season pass that has story missions in that. So that's why I said that's I don't
Yeah,
like that.
see, in that case, like I'm just playing the core game, and I don't care about your DLC after that. Like that's
Okay.
my approach to any other game. Because it's Final Fantasy, I will buy the season pass. But any other game, I usually like I'm just ignorant. Like I'm gonna play the game you give me, and if you cut out content, then that's your fault. I'm not playing the other content. That's my approach to it.
All right. Well, Max, you about to. If somebody was about to say something, was it you Austin or Max?
I was just going to ask a question about the Deus Ex really quick.
Okay.
I
Go
was
ahead.
going to say, are those story missions that they're throwing in, are they like, do you know if they're the end of the game, or do you know if they're just like kind of side missions? Because that's important.
See, here's the thing. The developer, I think when these people have these interviews, they really need to think about the answer before they give it, because the developer said, I believe it was the producer, in a recent interview, when they asked him about the additional DLC, he said, well, the additional DLC will, I guess, make the story more, will flesh out the story more. So that gives me the intent, well, okay, so this is additional narrative content that explains furthermore what happened at the end of the game. But that was all he said. He didn't really elaborate any further on that, so it possibly need to clarify quite a bit of things.
Interesting,
Yeah.
okay.
Because sometimes they have to be careful with these kind of things. Because like if you're like us and you blog about games, you do reviews and stuff like that. If you have the content that's separate from the core game itself that fleshes out the story, that might lead somebody to think that the game doesn't have enough content, and that might lead them to think that the game was very bad. So they have to be careful in situations like that.
I got a curveball to throw in there. Austin, I think you had something to say, though.
I was going to say, it's, back at E3, I was talking to the game designer, one of the leads at Naughty Dog, and I was like, hey man, what's next for it? He's like, Uncharted 4 single-player DLC, we got to start that shit from scratch. We don't cut anything out. And I was like, that's the way you do it. That's the way you make content. You start from scratch. It's nothing that is taken from something else. And I like
Exactly.
that. You know what I mean? And I'm fine with story content that's post-game if it's like an epilogue situation. Dragon Age Origins has probably my favorite approach to DLC. The story really wraps up, but then there are 2 to 3. You've got Awakening, which is a full-on expansion, and then you've got even Witch Hunt, which like caps it off there. That, to me, finish the story you were telling before you try to tell something else.
I love that game, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Or like Fallout 3's DLC.
Yeah, and
They did a great job with that as well.
All right, curveball time. So I don't know if y'all remember, but 11 months ago, there was an announcement made that every bit of DLC for Final Fantasy 15 will be free, no matter what it is that comes out after the game's launch.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, that was said by, who was it that said it? Hajime Tabata.
Yep, Tabata.
Oh wow.
Tabata said that. Any DLC that they add to the game will always be free. For example, if they add airships through DLC, it will be a free download. So things do change, and I respect that. I just think it's crazy that we've gone from all DLC will be free to you get a season pass, but some of that stuff might not even be included in that season pass. And to hone in on that specifically, I feel like that contradicts the reasoning for their delay of the game, the whole outside season pass thing, because they said, all right, this game is not what we wanted it to be for launch. There would be a significant day one patch if we released it at this release date, right? So we don't want to do that to our fans. So we're going to push it back a couple months and make sure that everything on that disc is what we intend for this game. But right next to that announcement is, hey, so that season pass that you can get to get all the DLC, well, that might not cover all of the DLC. There's going to be more DLC on top of that to get. And while I don't believe that they'll release it at the same time that the season pass content is being released, if they did that, in my opinion, that's like a death wish for your following. Like that makes no sense whatsoever, in my opinion. So,
I'd still buy it.
of course you would. You've purchased fucking Final Fantasy X multiple times, Final Fantasy VII multiple times, and 13 multiple times. Like, of course you would. But like I also was saying, if I buy that core game and it is the experience, and I can finish it and be perfectly fine without, having to get DLC to experience the rest of it, then that's what matters. He had a good example. Both of you had good examples with Dragon Age and, Fallout. I don't know as much, but another good example is The Last of Us. The DLC story, the narrative DLC for that, told a completely different perspective of the game, of a story that was hinted at in the main campaign, and the DLC comes out, and it came out well after the release of the game, too. So this is probably something that they started from scratch after the game was done. And that's how it should be. If you're already telling me before the game, like you just delayed the game, and you're already telling me that the season pass is coming, and there might be shit outside of that season pass, I'm like, can you focus? You didn't even make the release date you told me. Can you focus on that first, please? Like, that would be great.
They both sold you on and against something in the same breath. That's what happened.
Yeah, exactly. And that bothers me. And it's like, it's becoming the trend with a lot of these games. With the season passes and stuff.
I do agree that's bad practice, and I hate when any company does that, like try to sell you the DLC or even talk about the DLC too much before the game even comes out. Like, I hate that. And it's something in the gaming industry that needs to change, I think, overall.
Yeah, because there's so many questions you'll have to ask about that. Like, I'm not saying that this is what they're doing, but, like, if you're telling me, all right, game's delayed, and there's also more DLC, I'm like, did you delay it so you can take shit out and put it in DLC? Like, what you doing? Like, what's going on over there? It's bad
Very
practice,
good question.
Man. Yeah.
Very good question. Wow. I can't wait to hear what others think about this topic. You have to let us know in the comment section. Any final thoughts before we move on to the final topic?
I might not be getting this game in general anyway. I'm worried about it.
Oh, man. Uh-oh. Well, everybody else here is getting it, right?
Incredible.
Yeah, I'm probably going to get it.
My issue, y'all know how much I hated 13. And the whole thing where it's going to be partly open world and then partly linear, and how the first half is supposed to be open world and the second half linear, just reminds me of 13 so much that it's just off-putting. And I'm just like, hey. And then I can't forget, this was Versus 13 before it was Final Fantasy 15. This is still Nova Crystallis or whatever that series of games is called. It's still in there.
It has gone through a lot of some major changes though since it was Versus, because when Tabata came on, he basically was tasked to completely change the game from what Versus was going to be, and there were characters that were cut, there were storylines that were cut, and they expanded the game into this whole open world thing that they're doing now.
Yeah, I got you. It's just I can't forget, man. The North remembers.
I've got no problem with a game that funnels, because I think when it comes to a pacing issue, when it comes to like open world games, the further in the narrative you go with still freedom, the more the story suffers. Like there's so many times where I'll be playing an Elder Scrolls and it'll be like, hey, we've got to defeat the big bad, but wait, let me go see what's over here. So I've got no problem with the game funneling itself and becoming more linear as it goes on, but it's just got to be good. That's the problem.
Yes. I mean, Metal Gear Solid 5 had the linear segments later into the game that reflected the linear moment at the beginning of the game. So that, it can be done right. The execution can be solid. It's just I am grouping this with 13, and I'm just like, yo, this has gotta suck. Plus, I also didn't enjoy the demo, but yeah, that's just part of
it. All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna end it there because I could go on all
Sounds
night.
good.
We'll continue this after we stop being live.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about the final topic. I know there were some people that were a little surprised to hear about this news. I do have a bit of a response. Of course, I'm going to let everyone else give their opinion first, but it was announced earlier this week that now the price for PlayStation Plus is going up. It's going up several places, actually. It's going to be going up in the U.S., of course, in Brazil, Europe also. $10 more. So instead of it being $49.99, it's going to be $59.99. Which means it will now be the same price as Xbox Live. So, what are you guys' thoughts on this price increase?
Maybe they'll start putting good games on PSN Plus. Maybe the games month will be good, not like, I don't know. I don't even want to like criticize a game unfairly, but I don't think there's been a single huge AAA title on PS Plus yet.
Yeah. I can only recall one, and that may not necessarily be a game for everybody. That's NBA 2K16. Yeah. So, any other thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you go ahead, Charles.
So, what was the question one more time?
Yeah, just what do you guys think about the PlayStation Plus price increase?
Oh yeah, I've actually tweeted about this a bit. I love PlayStation Plus for some of the opportunities it's given to indie games like Rocket League and Fury, which Fury is in my top game of the year conversation right now, and like we don't know the business behind everything. I'm actually trying to do an interview with the Fury devs about some of that business, but we don't know everything about it just yet. But I hope that this increase was necessary to continue building on relationships like what they've done with some of these indie games. And Fury and Rocket League are not the only ones that have gotten some shine because of PlayStation Plus. They're just the two that were my favorites personally. Gone Home would be another one that was given a spotlight as well. So it's tough to complain or support a $10 increase in a business system that we really don't know a whole lot about, honestly. All we know is we got to pay this $10 to play, or pay whatever this amount is to get these free games and to play online. That's the extent of what we know. We don't know what happens behind the scenes, so it's kind of tough to discuss it with this price increase. So, and it's never good to have that price increase and not understand what's going on behind the scenes. So maybe Sony should also start to talk a bit more about what's going on with PlayStation Plus.
Absolutely. Any other thoughts? How about you, Mr. Max?
Nothing. I don't really have any crazy thoughts on it. I already pay that much for Xbox Live, so to me it's not that big of a deal. I mean, I don't have a PS4. I would like a PS4. I think that'd be cool, and I would pay that even with the price increase. I'd pay for both, but I don't know. I think that since it's going up per month, not too much, I think that it wouldn't be that big of an issue for anyone already paying for it. I don't think anyone's going to like hike off of it or anything like that. I think everyone's going to stay the same. I don't think it's really going to deter anyone from not going to PS Plus that much. That's just my thoughts.
Very good point. So let me say something real quick, and then I'm going to let you give your thoughts, Gary. So the thing is this: I actually don't have a problem with the price increase. I'm actually surprised that the price increase didn't happen sooner, because I mean it probably should have happened in the very beginning of all of this. But $60, yeah, I already paid for Xbox Live, and the thing is that there are places you can go online and not pay the full price. There are several sites that you can go to. I can give a list of those sites if people want that, but I mean there are ways to get this stuff for a little bit cheaper. So I don't have a problem with the price increase. Now, one thing I did have a problem with, and even this is not really a major problem, I don't like how Sony went about delivering this message, because what I saw that they did is, of course, they had a August PlayStation Plus post. They had that post, which of course shows you the games you were getting for August, which is fine. They posted that on July 27th. Okay, they went back to that post and they updated it with this information as opposed to having a separate post to let people know about this stuff. Now, obviously, if you were a PlayStation Plus subscriber like I am, you received the email that lets you know the price increase is going into effect on September 22nd. Maybe Sony very well may have a post the beginning of September, or they'll announce it at the PlayStation meeting or what have you. But I think that if there's anybody that they don't follow a gaming site or any of that information, they definitely would not have known the price is gonna increase unless they have PlayStation Plus. Then maybe you got an email that lets you know that. But I think that they definitely need to be more clear about this type of stuff rather than just update that post, because I like it. It only takes 2 seconds. But then of course they probably would have had to explain why we're doing this, so on and so forth. So we have to see. I also heard some news, and I can't really confirm this yet until we actually hear more about what the next games are. But I've heard some news that the September games they're going to announce are pretty much the same game on PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4. I don't know whether or not that's true, so we obviously have to wait until they announce it and then have a proper reaction to it. But I do think that some people have argued over the year about the games they offer. Some of the indie games are great. I agree with Charles. Fury is a great game. That game definitely was worth the value. But there may be some games that others may not necessarily like or enjoy. So I do think you need to offer a little bit more of an incentive to people, obviously with that price increase. And then, even though this is not really a fair comparison to make, I look at this compared to the Xbox Live games with Gold. And the whole thing about what Microsoft is doing now, because they have backwards compatibility, is that you're also getting 360 games that also work on the Xbox One. So to me, if there's a game like I didn't play, like XCOM, I've been playing that game for a couple weeks now.
Hey, welcome to the fight for freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm just saying that obviously, to be able to play these games that maybe I missed out on. There's a lot of older games, obviously not necessarily new stuff with the Xbox 360 games, but just to play games I haven't been able to play and knowing that I don't have to, fire up a 360, I think that's a great thing. Now, obviously, I guess if you have PlayStation Now, you can do this stuff as well, but I just think that with the PlayStation Plus stuff, they definitely have to, I think, offer a little bit more titles. The main complaint that people have been talking about all week is, well, they need to offer more games or other games that I want. So we have to see whether or not this price increase is actually going to deliver those type of things. But I say you give them the benefit of the doubt and see what they do. But based off of what I have heard so far, I think, I'm not really a fan of how they decided to roll out this information in an old post. And obviously, you would have had to go back and see it. They didn't republish this post or anything. So that, to me, I find a little fault with. But obviously, if you're a PlayStation Plus subscriber already, you knew about this because you received the email. So now, Gary, you have any thoughts as well as anybody else?
Yeah, like Charles said, I do feel like it would be better if they could give more information about, where your money's going and stuff for this price increase. And I do hope it leads to better games in, the PlayStation Plus service, the free games that they give away. But me personally, I won't be renewing once mine runs out because I don't see the value in it anymore personally. Because I'm someone who's playing more games on my PC, especially third-party games and stuff like that. I only really play the first-party stuff on PlayStation now, and I haven't played multiplayer on the system in months. So, yeah, personally, I probably won't be renewing. One of the things I was hoping when I heard this price increase was that they were offering PlayStation Now, that, maybe once the PlayStation meeting happens, maybe they'll announce that PlayStation Now is attached to PlayStation Plus, but I don't know if I see that happening. But that would be great. But yeah, I guess my main thoughts is I wish they would actually explain what this price increase means and what they're going to offer.
Yeah, I mean, it's like what you just said. You know, we'll have to see where the value is coming. I'm surprised, Gary, that you said you're not going to renew your subscription. Because, you know.
I mean, like, if they announce, if like, I don't know, if the content gets better and like some game comes out that I have to have some excellent first-party multiplayer game, and or even if I start playing on PS4 more and I start interacting with my friends on there more and playing games with them, then, you know, I might renew it at that point. But at the moment, I'm playing it so little. You know, the last thing I really played on there for a lengthy amount of time was Uncharted 4, and that was months ago. So I played No Man's Sky for a few hours, and that's a single-player game anyway. So, you know, for me personally, I just don't see the value in it, but I can see why other people do. And, I mean, there are games that were offered on PlayStation Plus that I enjoyed, like Infamous First Light, Rocket League, and I downloaded Fury, but I never actually got to start it, but I hear it's great.
Woo!
I think, was Child of Light on there? I can't remember. But yeah,
yes.
Yeah, there were great games that were on it, but I just don't feel like it's that consistently good as the Xbox games for Xbox Live. So, but yeah, that's just me personally.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, any final thoughts on this topic before we wrap it up?
I hope Gary doesn't go back to PSN because I need more people to chat with on PC anyway. So.
Well, hey, Gary can have both. Just get PlayStation Now, and then, you know, you can be on both. PSN and...
I got to say, it is wonderful not paying for PSN, but or Xbox Live right now as I play on PC. But I do recognize the benefits of it, and I may get it again when I do get another PlayStation 4. It's just on my end, as many games as I play, it may be more beneficial for me to take that monthly payment I'm not making and just buy those games that they're putting on PlayStation Plus at this point. Like Fury, I would have bought Fury, no doubt. But I had an existing PlayStation Plus account that was still going, so I didn't. And, you know, Rocket League I'm going to end up buying because I want to play it on PC now. So.
Yeah, I might have to do that too.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Do you think that
preference.
I was gonna ask. Sorry to cut you off. I was gonna ask. Do you think they'll address this at the PlayStation meeting?
They should, but I doubt it.
There's a lot that they should address, but you know, that's to be determined. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, like I said, you know, I think Max, you know, he already said it best. You know, if you already have Xbox Live and you play on there, then, you know, you may not have a problem with spending $10 extra. I mean, I don't really think the money is the issue. As I said, there are other ways to get this stuff for cheap. You know, if you go online, there's plenty of sites you can go to. Of course, you have to make sure that they are valid sites, you know, because you ain't trying to get scammed. But yeah, there's plenty of ways to get this stuff for cheaper. So anyone that out there that is worried about spending $60, I would urge them to get PlayStation Plus right now, while it's $50 or cheaper. Just get it right now because this doesn't go into effect until September 22nd. But that's all I got to say about the subject. Any final thoughts on this?
I'm good.
Me.
We're good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps this week's show. We thank you all for listening. I'm going to allow you all to give your final shout-out. So how about you go first, Mr. Austin?
Well, thank you, sir. You know, it's exciting times. I think we're still awaiting greatness. I think it's coming. It'll be here eventually. I don't know when it'll hit. It might be like an early 2018 thing, but it's on its way.
I know when it's coming. It's coming November 29th.
No, I don't know about that. I'll say, yeah, greatness is coming because that's what we saw at the PlayStation conference. So I guess whenever all those games drop, the year that they drop, that'll be the year that you could say, oh, greatness is finally here.
Y'all some haters, man.
All right.
Greatness is on PC. How about that?
No, yeah, you're right about that.
Greatness has been.
You're right about
Charles.
that.
No, I refuse. I won't be swayed. Not today. I'm holding out. I'll be the last one. Yeah, no, it's fun, and thanks for having me back on.
Yes, always
Yeah,
a
it was
pleasure.
always good to have you on.
Yeah. Mr. Singletary, any final shout-outs or words?
Thank you for watching. Thanks for having me on the show. I should be a regular, if you will have me, a regular cast member after this upcoming weekend because I will have moved back to Alabama, and I will also not be working on the weekends anymore. So yeah, that'd be dope. And follow me on Twitter, THE_CSJR. Look out for the podcast that will be debuting early September, Coins to Continue, with me and a couple really, really dope co-hosts. And, of course, check the Nicer the Turntable hip-hop podcast as well. We got some pretty dope things down the pipeline for that I think people will enjoy. But also mainly just hit me up on Twitter so we can start matching up with some people if you want to play with me on PC. Feel free. I'm handing out L's and Company of Heroes left and right. So whatever you want, we can do that.
Yes, absolutely. Sounds great. We'll definitely be looking forward to that. How about you, Max? Any shout-outs, final words?
Yeah, as always, thanks for having me again, guys. Love being a part of the show. And follow me on Twitter at Maximal Games, MAXEMOLE Games. Add me on Steam and Xbox at Maximal, again, MAXEMOLE. And that's pretty much it.
Yes. Awesome. How about you, Gary? Shout-outs, final words?
Yeah, since I couldn't make the show, I definitely wanted to say rest in peace to Rachel Murdoch. You know, we lost a member of the Koalition family to cancer earlier this week, so I want to give my condolences to Brett Murdoch and, you know, all of the family stuff. And, you know, also I want to give the regular shout-outs to everyone who listens and, you know, all the Patreon supporters, M. Collins, Michael Gority, and sorry, I'm forgetting the name at the moment, but I'll get to it. But yeah, shouts to everyone who continues to support us from, you know, every week, pretty much. And thanks for you guys for being on as well. Austin, thanks for being on. And Charles, we'll have you back regularly, but only if you admit that Final Fantasy 13 was good. You know, then you
All
can
right, so
get back on the show.
I just want to say thank y'all for having
Nice
me on the
knowing you,
co-op.
Charles.
This is my last show. It's been great.
That Seven's remastered remake coming next year will probably be good.
Hopefully, yeah. I'm looking forward to that for sure. Final Fantasy 7 has a special place in my heart, but I ain't admitting jack squat about 13. Never, ever, ever.
Yeah. Well, hey, I understand that. You're finished, Gary?
Oh yeah, I'm finished.
Yeah. So, also would like to, you know, we do definitely give a shout out to all the fans who continue to support us. Definitely want to say yes, this episode is dedicated to Rachel. You know, as I said on the previous show that we did for her, I did not spend a lot of time really getting to know her, but you know, you have to acknowledge that that was something that happened. It's very unfortunate, but I mean, I'm glad that you know, I just definitely will have prayers for Brett. I'm glad that he is being sociable and talking to some people on Facebook. So definitely, you know, feel free to send them some support as well. Some nice, kind words to Brett, especially. But other than that, we thank you guys for listening to the show. In case you missed it, we are going to be giving away Gary's favorite game, Final Fantasy 15. Yes, that's right. It does make me sick as well, but you know, I can't really say that type of stuff on this show. But we're going to be giving away that game. We do have the post up now. You guys who have not entered to win, you have until Friday to enter for a chance to win. Obviously, if you are a Patreon subscriber, you actually have an opportunity to get the premium edition of the game. If you're not a Patreon subscriber, you can still win the regular version of the game, but it all depends on who actually wins. But feel free to enter, because once it expires on Friday, this upcoming Friday, that's it. And we will announce the winner next week, because I know that there are people who keep asking who won the contest, who wins this contest. We're going to announce this on the next episode, so I don't want to hear any questions about who won. You'll know. But
yeah, and real
thanks.
quick, shouts
Go
to
ahead.
Stephen Fearon. He was the other Patreon supporter, the newest one. So shouts to
Awesome.
him.
Thank you, Stephen. One last thing, also, if you are a Patreon subscriber, we actually recorded a really great show yesterday. It's a show that we used to do back in the day called True Gamer Stories, where we basically give more of an insight as to our experiences, whether it is going to different industry events, so on and so forth. We did a show yesterday about E3, our first E3, as well as some of the things we've noticed that have changed over the years. So if you want to listen to that show, definitely want to subscribe to Patreon. It's only $1 to subscribe. You don't have to go beyond that unless you want to for the continued support. But I will say right now, that show was absolutely fantastic. You guys should check that out, as well as the Versus that we did, as well as Turn-Based. We're going to have more of those shows going on as well. So if you were thinking about subscribing, now definitely is the time to subscribe to the Patreon, because we have a lot of great stuff in the works. So for those that are already subscribed, we thank you very much. More great stuff to come. For everyone else, we appreciate the support. We hope that you guys have a great week ahead, and we'll talk to you all next week.